Hang on a minute.
Expand their operations.
Hang on. The Chancellor herself, back in 2022, tweeted this. GDP figures see dramatic drop to 0.1% in March. We must have an emergency budget.
Welcome back. What you're about to see is explosive. A Labour MP gets absolutely cornered live on GB News, caught trying to spin the so-called migrant deal between Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron. And trust me, this one doesn't end well for him.
OK, I mean, small boat crossings are at record highs. We're paying record high amounts on migrant hotels.
They keep claiming the crisis is under control. But when you strip away the spin, the truth is shocking. Only one boat a week is actually being turned back. One. That's their big achievement.
But then there's some footage today showing that there are a load of migrants disappearing over a hill while police in Calais take selfies of the dinghy that they have punctured and not chasing after those who have tried to enter our country illegally.
The moment you look at the real numbers, the whole narrative collapses fast. And here's the thing, you won't get this kind of honesty on the BBC. Stay with me until the end, because the economic twist in this story takes it from bad to worse.
This migrant deal, my producer Elizabeth has worked out that this deal will in fact be the equivalent of turning back less than one full boat of migrants a week. Apparently the average number of migrants in a boat is about 64. This will return just 50 per week. So pardon the pun, it's just a drop in the ocean, isn't it?
Well, actually, it's really important that we've got an international agreement with France because previous governments, Conservative government, failed to do this, and the only way we're going to solve this problem is by working with the French authorities. This is a pilot scheme. We're keen to see the scheme ramp up if it's successful. We're also working with the French authorities on making sure that they can take action in the shallow waters, in the French waters off the coast of France, to be able to stop small boats from reaching our shores in the first place. We have, by working with France, prevented about 12,000 channel crossings since we came to power, but there's more to do. Your viewers may have seen some of the footage of the French authorities puncturing the dinghies in the shallow waters a couple of weeks ago. The gangs who are smuggling people across the channel have changed their tactics, and it's appropriate that the French authorities change their tactics too. And part of the work we have been doing with the French is to get them to review their maritime law so that they can adapt their techniques as well, and we welcome that.
Well, I mean, puncturing dinghies is surely the least the French can do, not least because they've trousered £500 million worth of UK taxpayers' cash. Yes, we've seen them puncture dinghies.
We've handed France £500 million of British taxpayer money. £500 million. And what do we get back? Small boats still flooding across the channel. Be honest, does that sound like a strong border policy? Or are we being taken for fools?
But then there's some footage today showing that there are a load of migrants disappearing over a hill while police in Calais take selfies of the dinghy that they have punctured and not chasing after those who have tried to enter our country illegally.
Well, we're going to work with the French authorities in a whole manner of different ways to tackle this problem. You know, if you think back 20 years when there was a massive problem with stowaways on lorries that were coming through the Channel Tunnel, people were very dubious about the fact that we would be able to crack down on that problem. But by working with the French authorities and putting some really robust and rigorous processes in place, we were able to solve that problem. What the agreement with the French government does is it breaks the business model of these smuggling gangs.
Here's the spin they don't want you to notice. They keep blaming the gangs. Convenient, right? But if the border is wide open, if the system is broken by design, who's really to blame? The smugglers or the government that let this happen?
These are very sophisticated criminal gangs operating across multiple jurisdictions. That's why it's so important that in the last year we have made arrests in places like France and Germany, as well as in England and Wales, and why we're seeing prosecutions happening as well, because we've got to take some of the kingpins out of these international criminal gangs. So, you know, we're taking action on a whole variety of fronts, working with our international international partners, setting up the new Border Security Command and giving them counter-terrorism style powers to deal with the people that are profiteering from this trade in human beings at the moment. We're also, of course, taking action, just to reassure your viewers, on the people who don't have any right to be in the UK. And over, I think it was around 30,000 people have been removed from the UK who don't have a right to be here, don't have any permission to be in the country. And that's significantly up on the removals that took place under the last government.
OK, I mean, small boat crossings are at record highs. We're paying record high amounts on migrant hotels and such like. But let's move on to the economy. There's an interesting double-page spread in The Observer today, headlined, UK PLC is in a fix. We've got suggestions that the non-dom clampdown is going to cost $4 billion. We've got all businesses, big and small, against the workers' rights bill that Angela Rayner is trying to push through Parliament. And now we've got Downing Street refusing to rule out a wealth tax. How is that going to help growth, Heidi Alexander?
So what we saw in the first 3 months of this year was the British economy outperforming all other economies in the G7, which is the collection of most advanced economies in the world. And so, when we stood for election last year, we said that we would get the economy firing on all cylinders. We're not going to be able to do this overnight. The previous government, the Conservatives, tanked the economy over 14 years. There was stagnant growth during that time.
Well,
we're not going to be able to change everything overnight. But what I would say, Camilla, is that the fact that we have secured £120 billion of inward investment since we came into office is a sign of international capital looking at the UK as a place where they want to invest. In fact, Deloitte produced a report a couple of weeks ago saying that once we had done that US trade deal, it is actually one of the, if not the most attractive place for global investors to come and set up businesses and expand their operations.
Hang on. The Chancellor herself, back in 2022, tweeted this: GDP figures see dramatic drop to 0.1% in March. We must have an emergency budget. So last week, the economy shrunk by 0.1%, exactly the same figure that Rachel Reeves cited in 2022, calling for an emergency budget. So when the economy shrinks under the Conservatives, it's a national emergency. When it shrinks under Rachel Reeves, everything is going swimmingly. You can't possibly convince people that the economy right now is in a good state when you've even got The Observer, which is left-leaning, saying that the economy is tanking.
Watch the double standards in action. When GDP drops under Labour, nothing to see here. But when it dipped under the Tories' emergency budget, it was all-out panic. Same numbers, different story. And the bias couldn't be more obvious.
Is in a good state when you've even got The Observer, which is left-leaning, saying that the economy is tanking.
So look, GDP figures do bump around from month to month. If you consider the overall picture of the British economy, having secured 3 trade deals, one with the US, one with the European Union, one with India, those are all trade deals that the previous government sought to agree. The Conservatives tried for years to get an India free trade deal and never succeeded. We have come into office and we have done that. When I speak to businesses in my constituency about we had the fastest growing economy out of the G7 countries in the first 3 months of this year. Of course we want to go further.
That was before the April changes kicked in.
More economic growth. So look, we've also, since the election, created nearly 400,000 jobs. We've seen 4 interest rates since we've come to power.
Hirings are down by 270,000.
Look, when I speak to people in my constituency, businesses and ordinary householders, what they're interested in is, do I feel better off and do I have more confidence in the economy? And so, look, of course we've got more to do and we are never going to be complacent because making sure that we grow the economy so that we can invest in public services, our schools and hospitals, is the #1 priority of this government.
All right.
If you're sick of being treated like you don't matter, smash that like button right now. And tell me in the comments, is 1 boat a week a deal or is it a complete joke? Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the stories they're desperate to bury, and share this video because silence is exactly what they're counting on.